So this is a deck video for Shu Yun the Silent Tempest. This guy is probably one of the first Jeskai generals to take advantage of artifacts in his abilities. That's what I really like about him. And I've seen a lot of Shu Yun builds online, but they always seem kind of clunky and never really cohesive. So I thought I'd try to build somewhat consistent deck with him. Essentially, his role in this deck is Voltron finisher, because he can get really big really fast. With his abilities, you essentially only need to cast 8 non-creature spells and give him double strike for lethal damage. So let's look at the actual deck. Now, you'll notice I only have 27 lands. That's because this is a combo deck. It's essentially an eggs combo deck, which basically means that I'm going to be casting a lot of low mana cost artifacts. That's going to be costing 1 or 2 mana. I'm going to be drawing cards with them while keeping my mana relatively even. And then I'm going to get something out, like a Car Clan Ironworks out, or a Slowbad Goblin Tinker. Then I'm going to sack all my artifacts, or as many as I can, and then use something like Second Sunrise, Fate's Reward, Scrap Mastery, or Open the Vaults to get all those artifacts back onto the battlefield, and then essentially repeat that combo to draw my entire deck and gain a lot of mana, and essentially use that mana and pump it into Banefire for the win, or just pump Shu Yun up enough for the kill. So, starting with the lands. Ancient Den, typical artifact lands. I'm going to have Ancient Den, Great Furnace, and Seat of the Synod. And then Ancient Tomb, which is, free. I don't really care about the damage, so the 2 mana is pretty good. Bloodstained Miner, fetch lands are pretty good because they can be brought back with Second Sunrise and Fate's Reward. So I have all the on-color Jeskai fetch lands as well as some others. I have Buried Ruin, which is really good in giving back artifacts from my graveyard. There's also another artifact land called Academy Ruins, but it's up here. But I don't think that it's worth it because it's 2 mana intensive and it puts the artifact on top of your library, not it doesn't return it back to your hand. So in a combo deck, it's not all that relevant. Cephalid Coliseum is pretty good because your graveyard is going to satisfy the threshold requirement pretty fast, being a combo deck, and the draw 3 cards, discard 3 cards, looting ability is really relevant once you start going off. So, Command Tower, obvious in a 3-color deck. Crystal Vein, you can sacrifice it for 2 mana and then bring it back with Second Sunrise or Fate's Reward. And essentially, all of the on-color dual lands and or shock lands are also in the deck. Phyrexia's Core sacrifices an artifact, which is not completely irrelevant because you can get the extra draw off a Core Wellspring, or even better, you can get Mugen's Nexus sacked for an extra turn, so it's pretty good. Now moving on to the actual artifacts, I have Lotus Bloom, which is a 0 mana, essentially a Black Lotus, but you have to suspend it before you can actually use it, or you can cheat it into play using something like Transmute Artifact or Reshape. I also have other 0 mana cost artifacts like Mox Diamond, Mana Crypt, Lotus Petal, Lionside Diamond, and I do need to acquire Mox Opal for this build to be complete. And I'm also thinking of adding Chrome Mox to it, depending on how my testing goes. Moving on to the 1 converted mana cost spells, I have Orum's Chant and Silence. Now these spells essentially prevent control players from disrupting my combo by countering my my combo pieces or my spells that bring everything back. So essentially, you want to ideally cast these spells on the turn that you want to combo off. Chain of Vapor. This is a card that allows me to sacrifice lands as well as bring back any sort of soul ring or low mana cost artifact back to my hand so I can get extra mana out of it. Mystical Tutor, of course, searches for my return spells or any sort of wheels that I want in order to refresh my hand. Gamble is a all-inclusive tutor, and I don't really care if I discard what I search for, because if it's an artifact then I can bring it back, because the deck has the potential to do that with cards like Trash for Treasure, Goblin Welder, Duretti, even Codex Shredder. And if it's something like a instant or sorcery, I have Snapcaster Mage, Mystic Retrieval, and I guess Codex Shredder to bring those spells back. So, the actual egg spells, Aether Spellbomb, Chromatic Sphere, Chromatic Star, Conjurer's Bubble, Flight Spellbomb, Origin Spellbomb, Phyrexian Furnace, Pyrite Spellbomb, Skycloud Egg, Prophetic Prism, Mindstone is kind of an egg, I guess, a Core Wellspring, and Elsewhere Flask. These cards basically, for 1 or 2 mana, give me card draw, and some of the cards allow me to keep my mana relatively even as I'm drawing through my deck. So they're pretty good cards to have in the sort of artifact combo deck. And with cards like Ethereum Sculptor, Semblance Anvil, Cloud Key, these cards essentially lower the cost required to cast an artifact, so get it low enough and all these cards are essentially free. There's also Helm of Awakening, which reduces the cost of spells in general, and it's important not to allow your opponents to take advantage of this, so cast this only when necessary. And all the other cards in my deck essentially are tutors, or they search for combo pieces. They're wheels like Time Twister, Windfall, Wheel of Fortune, Time Spiral. They can be combo pieces themselves, like Feature Sight with the Sensei's Divining Top and any sort of artifact. Cost Reducer, you can draw your entire deck. I have Mirror Retriever and Junk Divers to bring any artifact back from my graveyard. I have Memory Jar as an extra wheel, and it's also an artifact, so it can be fetched. Tezzeret the Seeker is an amazing planeswalker that can essentially tutor for any artifact in the deck. Duretti is another planeswalker that can bring back artifacts from the graveyard and do looting if necessary. And then there's cards that draw as you cast artifact spells, like Vidalcan Archmage. There's also Riddlesmith, which loots every time you cast an artifact spell, and Jeskai Ascendancy, which loots every time you cast a non-creature spell. So all in all, essentially what the deck is doing is drawing your entire deck and playing your general for lethal damage or playing Banefire for lethal damage. I had a couple of other artifacts in here, like Mindslaver, but ultimately I took them out for more combo pieces. Ugin's Nexus is another cool spell that basically when sacked you get an extra turn, so it's really relevant in this type of deck. I also have 0 mana counters like Force of Will and Pact of Negation that essentially stop any sort of disruption or anything that tries to stop the combo. So that's essentially it. Hopefully you enjoyed this deck tech, and I'll be posting a video shortly that shows how I play against a Perforce deck.